Okay.
I'm broadcasting now. Welcome everyone. We are so excited to have you guys here. We're going to get started in about 3 minutes. We want to make sure that we have enough time for everyone to join us. Thank you all for joining us this Wednesday. We appreciate it. All right, everyone, just to let everyone know, we are going live on Facebook. So I hope you're okay with that. I will be starting the live session. Oh, well, it's 6:35. We will be starting the live session right now. Well, let me start this over one more time. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I haven't started Facebook Live yet, so no need to prep your hair or anything like that. So good evening, everyone. I am DeAndrea Barber. I am the Family and Consumer Science Agent in Clayton County with UGA Cooperative Extension. For those who do not know what UGA Cooperative Extension is, we've been around for a long time, over 100 years. We all kind of started with the 1914 Smith-Lever Act, which allowed, basically it allows UGA Cooperative Extension to deliver research-based information to the public. So basically, we're delivering knowledge and information and resources to you guys that have been research-based research, statistics, all that stuff to make sure that you guys are getting the appropriate information to live your lives well. So there are actually 3 parts of UGA Cooperative Extension, or 3 program areas. We have agricultural and natural resources, which focuses on making sure that the grass is growing and the trees are growing. And I apologize, that's my 3-year-old. And everything is flourishing outside. We also have our 4-H department, which is probably our most well-known department, our program area, where we provide youth development. And then we also have family and consumer sciences. And so tonight, you'll be hearing from 3 family and consumer science agents, myself, as well as Chef Rebecca, who is in Clayton County, and Keyshawn Thomas, who's in Bibb County. So I'm going to pause and let them actually introduce themselves and tell you all a little bit about themselves, and then we'll jump right back in.
Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm Rebecca Hardiman, and I am the Director and County Extension Coordinator in the Clayton County UGA Extension Office. I am also a Family and Consumer Science agent, and luckily enough, I'm a certified chef as well. So I'm excited to be here this evening. Last week, we had a great time preparing some items, and this week, I'm so excited for our Pantry Round Up. And hopefully I can give you all some tips and pointers and you'll try some new flavors. Keyshawn.
Well, hello, I am Keyshawn Thomas, and I am the FACS agent here in Bibb County, Georgia, in Middle Georgia. And I have been with UGA Extension almost 5 years. July will be my anniversary, 5 years. I am a ServSafe certified instructor as well as proctor, and I also engage in a lot of financial literacy and nutrition and health for our county here in Bibb. I am excited about this evening because one of the things, my most important role in my life is I'm a mom of 3 children, and I've been married for almost 20 years. So there have been a lot of meals cooked since we were newlyweds in 2000. Dion.
Awesome. So we are super excited to get started. So tonight, as Chef Rebecca said, we're doing Pantry Roundup. So what does that mean? We have rounded up some items that most likely are in your pantries as well as in our pantries. And Chef Rebecca has come up with some amazing recipes that we are super excited to share with you. But before we get to the recipes, we have to hit you with the education as well. So Keyshawn is going to start us off with the education piece. We're going to be talking about how to buy in bulk, how to decrease sugar, salt intake, as well as some great ways to freeze and preserve your food. So Keyshawn, go ahead, take it away.
All right, there we are again with me in technology. Thank you so much. And we are just going to get started here and share our little screen from beginning. Okay. All right, so just for the health of it, as we said last week, we talked a little bit about you are what you eat, and this week you still are what you eat. We talked about my plate, we talked about increasing our fruits and veggies in our diet, physical activity, as well as proper weight management, and all those things kind of go hand in hand, if you will. And we use a diagram of like a 3-leg stool. If I was sitting on a 3-leg stool now and one of the legs was taken away from me, you would probably see just a blank screen and a loud thud because I would be on the floor. So the 3-leg stool is the proper weight management, proper nutrition, and the physical activity. So when we talked about those things on last week, we went into some of my plate and some how we should eat. We should increase our fruits and veggies. We should have lean proteins. And if you were here with us last week, we know that our protein should fit in the palm of our hand. We should incorporate those whole grains, and popcorn is a grain, yay, and dairy as well into our diets. And I'm always asked in the classes that I do when we were doing, once upon a time long ago, when we were doing face-to-face, is that every meal, Ms. Keyshawn? And that is every meal. A lot of times we kind of justify, we kind of trick ourselves and say, well, I ate veggies for lunch. It should be every meal. We should get at least 2 to 3 servings of veggies per day, if not more. And what we're finding is the opposite. We let the protein or the meat, that is usually the main character, and the produce is usually the kind of side actor, if you will. So this week we are going to talk about how do we do that and where we are. So this week we are in the middle of a pandemic. So, and I also wanted to start off by saying the CDC, the FDA, and USDA have found no evidence that coronavirus or COVID-19 can be spread through packaging, through food, or through food items to date. So we're going to start there. But where are we? We do know that our food stock has been compromised at best. We don't want to say shortages, or we don't want to say that we won't have proteins, for instance, but we also know that the prices have increased rather sharply over the past 6 weeks. For instance, on the screen, you see the ground beef. I've never paid that much for ground beef. It's not like it is 80-20 or 90-10. That is regular ground beef. That is $20. We also see toilet paper. I was on the hunt for toilet paper last week. I had to send out the car, and it's not like I don't have any, but I got a little nervous because we were getting a little low, and it's 5 people in my household. So I had my friends on Facebook, hey, tell me where I can find toilet paper in Macon. And I've never seen the shelves like that in all of my lifetime, and I'm a woman of a certain age, but that's where we are. And also, I had a friend that sent me the boneless chicken breast. Do you see the price on those boneless chicken breasts? $20. Yes, ma'am. So we also want to give a little statistics. The Labor Department has said that our food prices have increased as far as they've increased at least 19% just in April alone. And that's the biggest increase we've had in 46 years since 1974. The price of meats, poultry, fish, and eggs rose 4.3%. But fruits and veggies, our faves, only rose 1.3%. Cereals have increased 2.9%. And on the other hand, some of our other items like cars, cruises, clothing, all of those things are all on sale now because we are not going out to purchase them. So just to give us a little bit of where we are. So the economics of it all. We know that we are in the middle of the pandemic. So how do we make sure that we keep our food, that we lower those grocery bills? I know it seems like at first in the beginning, I was spending, it seems like a lot of time in the grocery store. So I had to figure out a way to feed everybody, keep some of the things we needed, all of the things we needed, and some of the things that we wanted as well. So one way to do that is inventory. And you'll see on the little slide, the picture that came directly from my cabinet. For whatever reason, I had bought Bisquick. I guess I thought I was a baker at that time. But we see that date is 2017. So it's always a good idea to take inventory before you head to the store. How many cans of Rotel do I have? How many cans of tomatoes with low salt? How many cans of black beans do I have? And at one point, my husband said, if you bring one more can of string beans in this house, then we are going to divorce. And I was like, well, what's the problem? Because I didn't take inventory. So every time I went, I was purchasing string beans. And because they're low cost, I think I had literally, you guys, like 16 cans of string beans. And he said, that's enough. So, and also not just the pantry items. So when we go, and I have 2 freezers in my home, and I'm telling you guys all of my business, but you guys are my friends, so I can share that. When I go to the store, I make sure I check the freezer. And my husband is notorious. Look, don't buy any more fish, don't buy any more ground chuck, buy any more shrimp. We have, you know, tons and tons of those things. So it's a good idea to make sure that you have those things, that it'll stop you from overbuying, so that you won't have the 16 cans of string beans, but also so that you won't say, I have string beans, and as soon as you get ready to make that recipe that you've been waiting to make, oh my goodness, I don't have string beans. So it'll avoid you, stop you from going out to the store, an impulse run. Also make sure that you use what we call FIFO, first in, first out. When I had those 16 cans of string beans, I had to make sure that I was pulling the ones that the older cans, the older dated cans, to the front. And it's a little difficult. I have 2 teenagers in my household, and sometimes it's a little difficult if I'm not the one putting up groceries. And no, I'm not going to purchase the groceries and put them away. That's their job now. But if I put the cans in the front, I guarantee you they're a little lazy, so they're not going to reach around to the one in the back. So I usually pull the ones to the front, and then they will put the ones, the newer ones, in the back, so that there's first in, first out, so that I won't have that situation where I have the 2017 Bisquick, and it's like, oh, I can't use this because the date is gone. So also making a menu or a list. I found that if I made a menu, I could have all the items. I was not more so in that crunch, because if this was a regular time, and this is our new normal, but if this was a regular time, my children would still be in school. I would be coming home from the office and trying to figure out what I could cook. But if I had a menu, then I knew that I needed chicken on Monday, fish on Tuesday, I need lemon juice on Wednesday, if you make a menu, and also make a list. I have gone to the grocery store on several different occasions and thought that, oh, I can just remember. Of course, I feel like I'm 22. My mind is not 22, you all. I've gone into the grocery store and said, hey, you need to buy rice. I have gone on 3 separate occasions to buy rice and did not come home with any rice. Now, also, we all know, don't go to the grocery store hungry, because I've also come back home with being the proud owner of aisle 14. Because this look good, that look good. I'm gonna make this tonight. I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna eat this. Oh, I've been wanting to try these. So it's always a good idea to eat a little bit before you go. Sometimes people say don't take children to the store, but I've always taken my children to the store, because how else can they learn about money and purchasing items? So we wanna make sure that we do a menu or a list. Also, sometimes you have to have a list, because you may have to go to more than one store. So when I was in the search for toilet paper, I was in the grocery store, but that particular grocery store did not have toilet paper. So I made sure I kept my list, and you can keep your list several different ways. My daughter made fun of me because I had my little paper list. And I told you guys that I'm getting older. So there were several times where the list was at home on the counter, all nice and neat, and I was at the grocery store. So I have a little, on my phone, I have a little note, and the idea is that I can put everything that I need on the list, and at the bottom I put the menu, and also everybody in my house has access to my phone, so they can add things. Okay, that's wishful thinking. That never happens. However, they always all know where to find the list in case they need it, because it never happens. They never put it on the list unless it's something they want. You know, that's always some weird stuff that they want personally on the list. So making sure that you keep a list and making sure that you keep a menu, because that'll help to keep things in line, help you keep in budget. We know we're going to eat every day, so it's no sense in waiting until 5:30. Oh my gosh, what are we going to eat? Let's order a pizza. Those are our more convenient foods, are generally our more unhealthy options. So how else can I save money? We can buy in season. In the grocery store, produce now, for instance, strawberries are 2 for $5. Those same strawberries around October or August, when they go out of season, they're going to be a little pricier. I've seen a pint of strawberries for $2.99 or $3.99. And I'm like, I'm not paying that much for strawberries when I know that they were just 2 for $5. So buying in season. The same is true also sometimes for some of our proteins. My family, well, my husband and I, we like lamb. So it's probably not a good idea. I cannot afford lamb when it is not in season. Around the time when it's in season, around Easter is generally when it comes in season, then it's a lot cheaper per pound to buy in season. Shopping bi-weekly. I have done tons and tons of nutrition classes and budgeting classes. And I had a young lady once, and she said, I just go to the store every day and just pick up something. And I'm thinking, every day? And she said, I don't have time to make a list. Just whatever I want to eat that day, I just go and get it. And we talked through, and after a while, she said, well, man, Miss Keyshawn, I do spend a lot of time in the grocery store because I'm going every day when everybody else is in there. I'm frustrated by the time I come out. And so I asked her, I said, well, when you go in, do you just get the items for dinner that evening? And she was like, well, sometimes no. So we all have said, I'm just going to run in and get the chicken, the seasoning, and salad stuff. And then we come out with chocolate chip muffins, Doritos, and, circus cookies. So it is a good idea to make a list, make the menu, and I try to shop every 2 weeks. Now, this also helps with control. If they eat up everything before those 2 weeks, now I will yield on bread and milk because those are kind of the things that you have to have staple. And the produce, sometimes if I don't freeze it, like lettuce, for instance, I don't want to keep that for 2 weeks. But because you ate up all of the snacks that you requested that you were supposed to put on the grocery list, and you ate them up in 2 days, we're not getting any more until mom goes back to the store, and that's 2 weeks. Particularly now because it keeps me out of the store, out of the public. It helps with the sheltering in place and kind of staying at home. But it also stops those impulse buys. You can blow a budget in a grocery store, going in to get 2 things, and you come out with an entire shopping cart full of things, and you may or may not use them. So making sure that you kind of limit those trips to the grocery store, because it will also cut down on those impulse buys. Generics, buying generics. As you see on our picture there, I love generics. I will buy generics in a heartbeat as long as there is not a distinct taste difference, and generally there is not. So we have on our slide, my husband likes hazelnut creamer. He doesn't care that it's not name brand. It tastes the same to him. Lemon juice, I'm always going to incorporate it into something else, most likely. The low sodium chicken stock, I'm going to incorporate it into something else. And I will tell you a little tip about frozen veggies, generic veggies. Generally, they're a lot cheaper, and you get more in the packaging than the name brand or the national brand. And as my grandma would say, you're just paying for the packaging, baby, on some of those things. Now, do I have things that I don't yield on? Of course I do. I am not going to use anybody's ketchup but Heinz. I'm only going to use A1 steak sauce, and I'm only going to use Lipton tea. Those are the things that I will not yield on. But everything else is fair game, particularly if I cannot find a taste difference, or if there's not a quality difference in those items. And a lot of times for our major grocery stores, those items are a lot cheaper. And for instance, like if I was to buy fruit cocktail, I may not buy the generic brand. Sometimes they don't give me enough cherries. And that's just a personal preference. But most oftentimes it's not a big difference, and you are just paying for the packaging if it's a good quality generic brand. And for whatever reason, when I was younger, and I'm dating myself, there used to be a stigma. Oh, you have generic brands in your home. It saves coins so that I can do other things, okay? And also coupons and sales. We want to make sure that I am a notorious couponer. And I'm just like all of you all, I look at all of the sales papers for my local grocery store every week to see what's on sale. So chicken again, Mama? Yes, because it was on sale. That is what I had in the freezer. So yes, we will have chicken again. And sometimes I'll stock up on it, and we'll talk about freezing and making sure we keep those things at the appropriate temperatures. Making sure we have sale items. Sales usually go in 6 to 8 week cycles. So if something is on sale at the beginning of the month, it'll probably be 6 to 8 weeks before it comes back on sale again. And generally that is when I stock up on my paper products and like laundry detergent, because I know it'll be about 6 to 8 weeks before it comes back on sale again. Now, a word about coupons. We have everything now electronic, so you can get wonderful electronic coupons. Stores also accept paper coupons, but it's important to know what you're doing when you're couponing. I don't need 250 tubes of toothpaste. I like toothpaste and we always need it, but I don't need 250 tubes just because it was on sale or because I had a coupon for it. So make sure the store that you're going to, that whether they accept coupons, some stores will accept expired coupons, some stores will not accept paper coupons, they only do electronic coupons, and some stores will not stack coupons. Like they will not take a coupon from a store as well as a national coupon that you find in the circulars or the Sunday papers. I will also say about couponing, be careful. And I didn't know this was a thing until a couple of years ago when I really started couponing very heavily, that you can purchase coupons from people. That is not legal. You're not supposed to sell coupons. And most oftentimes, most stores, they have gotten smart to that and they will not stack those coupons as well. So make sure you know what you're doing when you're couponing, and don't get way out of the ballpark and have the 250 tubes of toothpaste like I talked about. Okay. And once I buy these things, Keyshawn, how do I keep them? Most oftentimes, freezing is the best way for us to keep our items, particularly now there is a shortage on proteins. So, and also if it's on sale, sometimes, for instance, we like chicken thighs and wings. And I don't know what happened, but prior to the pandemic, chicken wing prices had got a little skyrocketed for me. So when they had them on sale, like 99 cents or $1.99 a pound, yeah, I bought several family packs of chicken wings. No shame in my game. We needed them. I knew we were going to use them, and we were able to freeze them. So the first thing when you're freezing, you want to make sure you start off with containers. You want containers that can take the 0-degree temperature, that won't crack. You want to make sure that those containers are leak proof. You also want to make sure that those containers has a good vapor barrier. I love these. I love freezer bags. And the reason why I use freezer bags is because they're designed specifically to take the low temperature of the freezer, and they are pretty much leak proof, and they won't let any odors or anything else get in or get out of it. You want to make sure that it's a permeable type thing. Also, I like them because ta-da, it's easy to label them. So I have here ground chuck that we put into freezer bags, and look how thin that is. If you kind of roll it out, they fit. You can stack them and you can get more into your freezer because you don't want to overcrowd the freezer, and it won't work properly if you overcrowd it. Now, I will tell you that when I did these bags, I left a little bit of space at the top when I closed them, because as things freeze, they start to expand. Ooh, that's cold. Make sure your freezer is on 0. As things freeze, they start to expand. So you want to make sure that you don't have it all the way filled all the way up to the top, because it probably is going to expand a little as it starts to freeze. So make sure that you also label it. So you can use a marker, you can get gum, you can get tape to put on your bags, but this one is ground chuck, so I know exactly what it is. Because actually, true story, my husband barbecued yesterday. So we took several things out of the freezer, and I'm not claiming this. Obviously, somebody else put this item in the freezer without labeling it, and we thought it was steak. It wound up being cube steak. Now, grilled cube steak, let me tell you, is really good, because that was the mistake we made, but I really thought it was a T-bone steak. So it's always a good idea to label it. And also, you want to make sure that you don't have, and also date it. So these are 5/12/2020, and this is ground chuck. This one is ground turkey, and it's 5/12/2020 as well. Just to make sure, and also if you add anything into it, like for instance, sometimes I will cook it up prior to freezing it. So if I make, for instance, taco meat, then I'll say taco meat 5/12/2020. You want to make sure that you don't have that UFO in your freezer. And that is what I call an unidentified frozen object. You're not quite sure what it is. You think it's some sort of protein, but you're not sure. And once it thaws out, it's like, surprise, it's something weird. It may not even be a protein. So labeling is critically important. And it also helps with your first in, first out, your FIFO. Washing produce. I am hearing some interesting things about washing produce, and I will say that the best thing for produce is to make sure that you wash it under what we call potable or drinkable water. Some of our nice produce sprays and produce washes, they are higher in price, and they have other chemicals, some of them. And also, you don't want to leave a residue of whatever that is. Now, I know sometimes, for instance, apples, they have a lot of wax on them. And one way is to soak the apples in cool water, potable water or drinkable water. Soak it. Sometimes we'll put a little vinegar in it, but that is all you need. I've heard stories. One lady called, true story, she called the extension office and she wanted to know if she put a little dishwashing liquid in her greens. And I'm like, no. She was an older lady, so we know that sometimes you have digestive issues. So if you have soap residue on your greens, they may taste good going down, but later on that night, you're going to regret that. So making sure that you use cold, cool water, that you rinse. If it's something that's a leafy green, making sure you get in between all the leaves. If it's something with a skin on it, you can use a little brush, and you can sanitize that brush in the dishwasher at the appropriate heat in order to make sure that you are using something that has been sanitized, but you don't need to add anything else to it. Now, we do have some produce that is a little, I guess it's, I don't know what you want to call it, delicate, I guess is the appropriate word, like raspberries, for instance. We don't want to just run raspberries underwater. We want to put them in like a colander because they're so delicate. And definitely raspberries and strawberries, you don't want to rinse them and then put them back in the fridge. You want to rinse them as you eat so that they will maintain their texture and taste. So safe thawing. We are also doing some interesting things. My granny used to put the chicken on the counter in the sink to thaw out overnight. But we now know, and science has changed, that there are better ways to thaw. There are approximately 3 ways for us to thaw and thaw safely. Aside from COVID-19, we want to make sure we reduce the risk of foodborne illnesses. So thawing in water, under running water, cool water that you change out every 30 minutes. In the refrigerator, thawing, that is the longest time, and it takes some pre-planning. But I will tell you, if you thaw it in the refrigerator, say for instance, if I'm having a whole chicken on Tuesday, so on Sunday evening, I may snatch it out of the freezer, put it in the refrigerator. It may thaw maybe Monday evening, and then I marinate it. And when I tell you marinate, and Chef Rebecca is going to give us a little bit about marinating, marinade helps us to use a lot less sodium, and it helps the flavors to kind of go through whatever the item, particularly proteins. So far we have in cold water, changing out the water every 30 minutes so we can get all of those nasty things that make us sick out of them. And also the last one is microwave. Now, if you are going to use the microwave method to thaw or defrost, you should be cooking it right away, because sometimes thawing it in the microwave has a tendency to kind of half cook it. And you don't want half of it to be cold, half of it to be warm, because it'll fall in what we call the temperature danger zone. And the temperature danger zone is the zone where all of our bacteria and microorganisms, they love to be in that temperature. They love to a moderate temperature. They need something to feed off of. And guess what? While you are thawing in the sink overnight, that's what they're doing. Those bacteria are growing exponentially, and they are growing very fast because they love those conditions. So also storage times. Just because you put it in the freezer does not mean that it lasts indefinitely. While you may not have a food safety issue, like a foodborne illness issue, as long as your freezer is 0 and it is frozen solid, like our little ground chuck here, if you leave it in there for 2 years, you are probably going to experience some issues with taste and texture. And I told you guys last week, I'm a texture girl. So if the texture and the taste is not right, I don't want it. I don't want to feed it to my family. So that is one way to make sure if we use FIFO, the first in, first out, then we won't have that unidentified frozen object. And we also won't have things in there for longer than we should have it in there. And on our screen, we have a little chart for how long you should leave things in the freezer. It's not indefinitely, unfortunately. We've all gone somewhere and someone is like, oh, I pulled these out the freezer. And it's like, well, when did you get it? Oh, I don't know, such and such went fishing and they gave it to me. It's like, well, he's moved out of the state like 3 years ago. So when exactly did you get this? So make sure that you don't leave those things in there indefinitely. Freezing is not an indefinite, leaving it in there indefinitely. And your takeaways for today are to utilize strategies to decrease grocery store costs. So buying in season, using coupons and sales, making sure that we buy generic brands when we can, because we need to save our coins. Also, wash, freeze, and store and thaw properly. We want to reduce the risk for foodborne illness outside of COVID-19. We want to make sure that we don't introduce a foodborne illness into our families. And last, revise and adjust as needed. At one point, I was searching because everybody loved Honey Nut Cheerios. Well, their taste has changed now, so they want different types of cereal, or we like different types of drinks, or I like this different type of snack. So sometimes it can be a living document, your grocery list or your menu, as your taste expands, as things change. I remember when my children were small, buying the little Gerber Puffs. They don't want those anymore. They're teenagers, so they want real snacks. So you have to revise and adjust as needed. So that concludes my educational portion, and we're going to move to what you've all been waiting for, Chef Rebecca. So Chef Rebecca, what is on the menu?
I feel like I should have like a drum roll or something because of all the excitement.
I can give you one.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so tonight we are going to make homemade burrito bowls. Now, I am one who was frequenting Chipotle a lot because it's convenient, but you can make your own at home and change the flavors up, change the ingredients up. You can do whatever you want to make it what you and your family enjoys. But tonight, I'm gonna show you all how to do a quick marinade for the chicken. And I'm also gonna give you a recipe for a dressing to go on top. And you can use this marinade and the dressing for many things. It does not have to be just for a burrito bowl. And then we'll talk a little bit about things you can add to that. While we're cooking our chicken, we're actually gonna make our own homemade salsa as well. It's called the Lazy Day salsa. We're gonna make that in the food processor. And then we're gonna wrap up tonight with some dessert nachos. And we're gonna give you some tips on what to use with those leftover tortillas and leftover corn and black beans, all that stuff. We're gonna show you what to do with all those leftovers. So why don't we get started? And I'm actually gonna move my camera so that you can see what I'm doing between the cutting board and the stove, all right? And I know that my colleagues are gonna help out with filling in or answering your questions as you have them. So if you do have questions, I encourage you to put them into the Q&A box. All you have to do is just type them in, and one of my colleagues will be sure to either ask the question out loud or answer your question for you. All right?
And for those of you who are on Facebook Live, feel free to put your questions in the comment section. Unfortunately, I cannot share with you the recipes that we're working on this evening, so I'm going to share my screen real quick while Chef Rebecca is getting ready to prepare, so you guys can take a look at the recipe real quick. Also, if you guys are interested in, well, I know you all are interested in receiving the recipes and possibly some more information, like what to do to prevent UFOs, as Keyshawn just went over, please enter your email address in the Q&A box so that we can actually email you all the resources, possibly the PowerPoint, as well as the recipe cards. So the first recipe that Chef Rebecca is working on is the chicken burrito bowl. So I'm just going to have this up for a couple of minutes. So we have three main parts to this chicken burrito bowl. We have the chicken marinade, we have the burrito bowl itself, and then the dressing. As Chef Rebecca mentioned, you can use the marinade for anything. It's really yummy. It sounds really yummy. And then the dressing as well. So going to leave this up here for a couple more minutes. If you're interested in checking out what Chef Rebecca is doing, you can actually pin her video. So you can see what she's doing while you're actually looking at the recipe.
All right, so what I'm doing right now while you all are taking a look at that recipe is I am just cutting our peppers into strips, and I have, the recipe I gave calls for green peppers. I'm using green, red, and yellow because this week on sale, the trio was in there. And listen, if you can get the trio of peppers on sale, especially with the price, the normal price of red and yellow peppers, go for it. So that's what I did. So I'm just mixing them up so that I get a good color mix, and I'm just cutting them into strips right now. In the recipe, I also state that you can do this in a shallow bowl to marinate. I'm actually using a Ziploc bag tonight because it's a little bit easier. I'm just going to put all my ingredients in this Ziploc bag and then put my chicken in there for it to marinate. All right. So.
And also, if we have extra peppers left over, if we don't want to put it in that marinade, we can always freeze them so that we can snatch them right out. I have a chopper, a Ninja chopper that I love, and it gets it really fine. So you can you can chop them by hand. That's a great job for a young person that wanders into the kitchen. What are you doing? They can help you to chop those things. And also you can use them for fajitas. So it's very diverse. You can use them also for, like, for instance, a Cajun skillet, if you wanted to use some Cajun seasoning. So it's peppers are very diverse. So don't think that they'll go to waste.
So if you are not used to using fresh garlic and you are normally using the minced garlic that you get in the jar, I'm just going to show you a quick trick. So this is 1 clove of garlic that I have here, and it still has the skin on it. If you take your knife and just sit your knife on top of the clove and give it 1 good whack, that skin will come right off and you'll be left with just the clove of garlic. And then you can mince the garlic with your knife, or sometimes I make it into a paste because it brings out a little extra flavor. Another good tip is for a nice smooth garlic, you can put the whole bulb of garlic in the oven and roast it. And when I tell you it comes out like butter, that's something that's really good. Mix it with a little bit of olive oil and then dip your whole wheat tortillas in it. Ooh, that's some good stuff right there.
Yummers.
Oh, yes.
And it gives it a nice, bold, smoky flavor as well. If you put that garlic in the oven, it kind of, for whatever reason, it seems like it enhances the flavor to me.
Yes, definitely. All right, so I definitely gave a rough chop to the garlic. I'm doing a rough chop to some cilantro here, and I'm using, it's about 2 tablespoons, which is what the recipe calls for. But in my house, we love cilantro, so I often go a little overboard with the cilantro. Again, you can make it whatever you like. Okay, so in here I have some cumin and some chili powder. Now, some people don't like chili powder. It's a little bit too strong for some. You can use just the cumin and don't do the chili powder. Totally up to you. You can make this whatever you like. So I'm gonna pour my seasoning in the bag. Get everything in this one bag. All right. And then I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Do it right into the bag here.
So you just want to use the smallest amount of olive oil possible. We don't want it saturated and too heavy with too much oil. And olive oil is considered a good oil, as well as avocado oil. When you start to use things that are solid, if they're solid at room temperature, just imagine what they will do to your arteries.
Ooh, yes.
I know a real popular oil right now is coconut oil. People are using it everywhere, including their hair. Coconut oil is very solid, so that may not be the best option.
Now you can get the fractionated coconut oil, and that does not get solid at room temperature. But anything that is solid, because okay, we all remember when grandma used to use lard and shortening, and we use bacon fat, used to, because now we've all switched to turkey because we know better. So those things get solid at room temperature. But when we start to get older, and if you're trying to go on this kind of healthy journey, you want to make sure that you're not doing something on the inside that we cannot see that causes damage.
Very true. So I have here a little over a pound. The recipe calls for chicken thighs. These are chicken tenderloins, and I took the little tenderloin out of the middle. That's what I'm using tonight because, again, it was on sale. So I'm going to use that. And I'm actually going to put my chicken, let me use my fork. Put my chicken right in the bag here, and we're going to let that sit for a little while we move on to some other things. So let me do that real quick, and then I'll show you what it looks like when you get everything in here.
Now, Rebecca, is this something that I could do, say, for instance, if it was, no pre-COVID-19, for instance, and I wanted to do this in the morning before I went to work? Is it okay for it to sit like 8 hours in the refrigerator at the appropriate temperature?
As long as it's in the refrigerator and as long as it's at the appropriate temperature. That's the only way to ensure that you are decreasing the opportunity for any kind of bacteria or anything to get in it. So yes, you can. In fact, you're gonna get more infused flavor if you do it for a period of time in the refrigerator.
Chef Rebecca, your recipe sounds so good that my daughter climbed up on my chair to check out what you're doing.
Yay! I love that. So here's what it looks like. I've got the peppers, the chicken, all the seasonings, the cumin, olive oil. I did put in some fresh lime juice. While we were talking, I put some lime juice in there. So I'm just moving it around a little bit. And then I'm actually gonna let this sit in the refrigerator while we move on to a couple of other things. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna wash my hands.
So when she moved it around and kind of incorporated and got everything kind of saturated in the bag, because you can't really stir in a bag, but you can move it around good to make sure you get that olive oil kind of fully throughout and onto all the items. And that olive oil is also going to help those seasonings kind of stick to whatever food item that is. So, and this is one of my favorite ways to season, particularly proteins, to just season it and pop it in the fridge and leave it 12 to 24 hours. And you can really get that infused flavor.
Exactly. And like you said earlier, Keyshawn, marinating helps to kind of eliminate some of that extra seasoning that we tend to put on when we're seasoning right then and there. So marinating for a little bit overnight doesn't hurt anybody. It definitely helps to increase the flavor.
All right. The other thing I wanted to say before we move on is this marinade can be used with other flavors. Like I've done an Asian marinade where I put some Asian flavors in, add some ginger in there. That works too. You don't have to stick with the flavors of the cumin and the chili powder. So have fun with it. See what you can discover. I actually do have a sheet where I've made some no salt or low salt seasoning blends for at home. I mean, from Greek to Italian to anything else. And hopefully we'll be able to share that with you all. I'll get that so we can share it with all the recipes. All right, so now that we have our chicken waiting in the refrigerator, I'm gonna show the dressing. We're gonna make the dressing so that that can sit and kind of marry together while we're waiting for that chicken to cook. So let me go back to the cutting board. All right. Okay, so we're gonna start with a mason jar. I'm gonna use a mason jar so that I can shake up the dressing when it's done. I am going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. To that, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of fresh lime juice, which I pre-squeezed.
Mise en place. You had all of your items together.
Very good, Keyshawn. Yes, mise en place. That means everything in its place, the way we should cook. I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of cilantro. And again, I kind of eyeball it with cilantro because my house loves cilantro.
Yay, I love cilantro. Did you guys know that over 50% of people love cilantro and 50% of people say that it tastes like soap? So
Like
most
soup?
of us fall, it's like soap. So most of us fall into one of those groups. Either you love it, and you can take the taste, or either you fall into that 50% that it's like, this tastes like soap. I don't know why you guys eat it. Thankfully, I am in the 50% that love cilantro.
Me too. I had no idea. That's a great statistic.
Yeah, it is.
I have one child that does not like cilantro. And he was like, it tastes like soap. And I was like, why is he getting soap taste, with cilantro? And come to find out, he is spot on with his tasting. And it's a lot of people that feel the same way he feels.
Very interesting.
Chef Rebecca, is there a reason why you chose to use a mason jar to make your dressing?
I make all of my dressings in a mason jar, and that's because it's just easy for 2 reasons. It's easy to be able to shake it, especially shaking it right before you're about to use it, serving with it. And also it's easy for storage because you can throw the mason jar right in the fridge and take it out whenever you need it. So that was a great question. All right, so we've got our 1 clove of garlic in there, our cilantro, our fresh lime juice, and our olive oil. And I'm gonna add a little bit of cumin and salt.
So by making this dressing at home, we are controlling what 3 things?
Oh, good question.
And I think we talked about it last week, but take a wild stab at it. You can put the answers in the Q&A box for us.
Great question.
There's no prize except a smile from all 3 of us. But still,
you get a smile. You get a smile. You get a smile.
Okay. I've added the last little bit. I added a little bit of brown sugar. It says half a teaspoon. That's what I added to it. And so now I have my dressing ready to go. It's kind of hard to see. Now you can definitely double this up and make a little bit more, but you don't really need a lot because you're going to get so much flavor with the chicken marinade that you're really not going to need a whole bunch. So while we still have a little bit of time, I'm actually going to turn the oven on, so we'll have that ready for our dessert nachos. I'm going to turn our skillet on and start getting warm, but we're going to make the Lazy Day salsa really quickly. So let me just clean up real quick and I'll be right back.
So that dressing looks wonderful. And I think one of the things that I would probably add, see, can I add half an avocado? I love avocados as well. So I would probably add a half avocado and run it through some sort of NutriBullet or something to smooth it out. And I would increase the cilantro. I maybe would add a little garlic. So you can be creative. This is just a guy. I'm a garlic girl too now. I love my garlic.
I was going to say, you got to add the garlic.
So this is a guide for you. You can definitely make it your own. And one of the reasons, I'll give you the answers. You're not getting away from me that quick by not putting it in the box. But one of the reasons why we want to make our dressings at home is because we can control the fat, sugar, and sodium content. As you can see from Chef Rebecca making that dressing, the sodium content is very minimal, as well as a small amount of brown sugar. When you buy commercially processed dressings, they have a high sodium content because we know salt is one of those things that helps us to keep items shelf stable so that they can go from the plant to the store and remain on the shelf until you come and purchase it.
And when you guys receive your recipe cards, you'll note there are notes on the back of them. And you'll see that a restaurant burrito bowl has 1,640 milligrams of sodium compared to what we're doing tonight, which is 468 milligrams of sodium. So huge, huge difference.
And I don't know about you all, but we are always watching sodium, fat, and sugar in our household. My husband has high blood pressure, and generally as we begin to age, our bodies begin to break down. So we want to make sure that we avoid having a combination, if you will, of chronic diseases, high blood pressure, as well as, say, for instance, diabetes. And we also want to keep that fat low so that we can kind of keep that weight management together, one of those legs of our.
Very true. All right, so I am going to, in our food processor, I'm going to blend the onion and the garlic cloves first because they need the most time. So I'm using 2 cloves of garlic and approximately a quarter of a medium size onion. Now, you can adjust this for whatever it is that you like. Some people like more onion, some people like less onion. Whatever it is that you want or you desire, have at it.
If it says 2 cloves, I'm 3 cloving it every time.
We know that.
Noted.
Yes. Noted. If I ever have to cook a meal for you, I know exactly what to do. All right.
I just want to check in with our Facebook friends. Say, hey, welcome you guys. We do, Keyshawn, we have one person who is in that 50% that thinks that cilantro tastes like soap. But maybe maybe we could add something, other herbs to add to that to get that soapy taste away.
Well, basil or oregano, fresh basil or oregano, it seems like that would also be good with that marinade as well. And there's always a few that's like, I cannot stand the taste of cilantro. So
there you have it. All right, I'm gonna go over to the food processor really quickly and just blend these garlic, cloves, and the onions real quick, and I'll come back and show you what else we're gonna put in here. I'm gonna mute because it's gonna be loud.
And one of the reasons why I like garlic so much as well, it's an anti-inflammatory and it has wonderful properties that you just cannot get from, say for instance, taking vitamins. Natural herbs and spices and any of our plant-based items, they have wonderful nutrients that it's hard to mimic that in the lab. For instance, taking vitamins. I knew a young lady one time, she came to class and she was taking a vitamin for almost everything under the sun. And I'm thinking, if you just eat more plant-based items, you can get a lot of those nutrients without having to take a vitamin for every single thing. So that's one of the reasons why I also like the herbs as well as the some of the spices, because they have other properties rather than just a taste property, if you will.
All right, so as you can see, I've got these onions and garlic chopped, not too much though, because I'm going to add some more stuff and I have to put it back on the food processor, and I don't want it to be too mushy. I like mine to have a little bit of texture to it, so it's not too overdone. So now I'm going to add to that, what I have here is some diced tomatoes with green chilies in it. Now, you can do just plain tomatoes. You can do the tomatoes with green chilies. You can choose mild. They have one that's super hot. You choose whatever it is that is going to work best for you and your family. This right here is mild because we don't want it too spicy for my 8-year-old. So that's what I'm using. And it's about 10 ounces, which is the small can that you get. And I'm going to put that right in here.
That looks delicious. I could inhale that right about now.
I'm gonna add a half, like squeeze about half of a lime. I'm gonna add that to this. I'm gonna add about a half a teaspoon of salt, not too much. And I'm actually gonna add cilantro. Again, I'm a little heavy with the cilantro, but you know, All right, I'm going back to the food processor and I'm gonna show you what this looks like at the end. I'll be right back.
So all of those are pretty fresh. The cilantro is onions and garlic. We love salsa in our house. And actually, this is a very easy recipe. At the time, she was 15-year-old daughter. She started making it. And generally, we have to double that recipe. So as Rebecca said, in order to kind of keep the heat profile down, we will use 1 can of tomatoes with the green chilies, and we'll use 1 can of low sodium or reduced sodium diced tomatoes, just regular plain tomatoes, and they help to balance out that kind of heat profile, because I also have a 9-year-old in my home and this is hot, Mom, it's too hot. So if we kind of use an extra can of tomatoes, it'll balance out that little heat factor. And it's a great tasting salsa, and it can also be used for tacos, bowls, 7-layer dip, and sometimes just as a snack with our wheat tortillas.
Now, I really wish you all could smell this, because the smell is absolutely amazing. We said last week, we wish that smell-o-vision was here already.
So Alexis chimed in and said she loves the color. So yes.
Yes. And beautiful. So as you can see, I made it so that it's not super chunky, but not super smooth either. Now, I could take the juice off of the tomatoes and the chilies before I put it in the food processor. I don't do that because I use the juice from this. So what I'm going to do is drain this after the show. I'm going to drain it because I will use the juice for another meal. So maybe next week I'll tell you all what I did with it. So you have to tune in next week to find out.
Yes, you sure do. And Audrey said, I know it smells amazing, our Facebook friend. So yes, it smells, and I'm sure it's going to taste even more amazing. Looks better than a restaurant.
Ooh, I'll take that. Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to wash my hands, get the chicken, and then we're going to start cooking, all right?
And you can make this salsa, and I've taken it to, when we were out and about, I've taken it to several get-togethers, family gatherings, and people are like, this salsa is really good. And I'm like, oh yes, I spent all day making it. And it's, it's easy peasy. Now in my household, we kind of like it in between as well. So we have doubled, sometimes even tripled the recipe, and we have run it through a blender. And that will kind of smooth out, because I don't like the really big chunks of tomatoes. So be creative, use some of those gadgets that we have at home, depending on, what your family's likes are. This is that revised as needed portion.
That's right. All right, so even though we have some olive oil in our bag, I'm gonna spray my pan with some vegetable oil. I try not to use name brands, because in one of my classes I had a young lady who said, I looked everywhere for that name brand you said. So I just try to use the generic. So my cooking spray I put in the pan, and honestly, I'm just gonna dump this whole bag right into the pan. So I have it on about medium heat right now. Oh God, again, I wish you could smell this.
I bet it smells divine. And it looks like that this is relatively quick. So say for instance, I had marinated this all day while I was at work. And you're coming home, you're signing papers, you're figuring out what we're going to eat, you're taking off your shoes, and somebody is telling you something that happened in their day. This is something that you can do very quickly. And also for those of us that have older children, if I marinated this and had it in the refrigerator, I would definitely get my 17-year-old daughter to start this. With supervision, of course, but it will help her because we're working on our cooking skills, because we have one more year before we go off to school. So we want to make sure you can at least boil.
You have to be able to do that if you're going to go off to school.
So you don't think my 3-year-old could handle this recipe?
Not just yet.
Well, we know she can make pizza though, so.
I wish.
All right, so we have a little bit of time while that chicken is cooking. And so we can either chat it up, answer some questions, or I can move on and do the dessert nachos. What do you ladies think?
So Mia is offering her services to be a taste tester, of course, while social distancing. And so thank you. Thank you, Mia. We appreciate that.
We'll have to make sure she knows when to show up to the office.
Right.
She can have the kitchen to herself.
I think we should go ahead and start on our dessert nachos, because I'm only going to last until 8 o'clock. Unfortunately, I did not eat dinner before we started. So watching this food is like, I am so hungry. And I'm really curious about dessert. Sometimes, depending on how hungry I am, dessert is my favorite course of the meal. So I am excited about these dessert nachos. And one of the things that I like to point out is the peppers. We can keep the peppers on hand. That's something we can pull from the pantry. All of us almost always have some sort of chicken in our home. You don't have to use tenderloins. I like boneless, skinless thighs, for instance, and I always keep them on hand. So those are some of the things. And sometimes even if chicken breasts are on sale, then guess what? That's what they get, chicken breasts. And sometimes I will butterfly them. I will slice them very thin so that they'll be nice and tender and remain juicy as well.
Definitely. That's what I say. That's why I got the tenderloins, because they were on sale. All right. I'm going to go back down here. What I have here is apples. I'm going to show you two different versions of the dessert nachos. I have a golden delicious apple, which has really great flavor. And then I have our gala apple over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice these apples really thin. And Deandra, did you want to put the recipe up, or we don't have that ready just so they can see it?
Yes, I will put the recipe up.
Okay, just while I'm slicing these, that would be great.
Sure.
Now, when you hear of nachos, what you think of is obviously the nachos with the cheese and the maybe ground beef or chicken and all the other fixings that go on top. But what I'm going to show is two versions of dessert nachos that will help you use up some of those items that you probably have left in your home after a meal, and then B, that really help to reduce the fat, the sugar, and the sodium, like we've been talking about. So I'm just slicing these apples really thin. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to do a little bit of each. Apples never go bad in my house because my 8-year-old will eat apples all day, every day if I let her.
That is one thing my 3-year-old likes. One thing out of a million.
Right.
And there are so many varieties of apples. I love Kiku apples. I also like the Fuji apples. And I can't find them, but I did find, what is the name of it? Sugar, is it sugar? It's another name for, it's so many varieties of apples, and some of them I like the sweeter kind of apples. So you can definitely use whatever kind of apples you have, and they're pretty much always in season, so they're relatively economical. And sometimes you want to use them just to have it a different way. Sometimes my 9-year-old is like, I don't want apples, but if I make this, and he's like, what is that? I can see his little eyes widen, and I can see his interest is automatically piqued.
Right. Okay. So I've sliced these apples. I'm just going to get them on my plate here. Now, you can make these as beautiful as you like. I am just, for the sake of time, going to just lay them on here gently. I like doing 2 different kinds of apples because it gives 2 different kinds of flavors. And sometimes, depending on the apple, it'll give 2 different textures as well. So that's the good thing about that. So,
and the visual on both of those.
Yes. Yes, definitely. The visual is amazing. So what I'm gonna add is I'm going to sprinkle with a little bit of cinnamon.
Apples and cinnamon, the beginnings of a great dessert. Yummer.
Ooh, smells good too. All right, so I've got my cinnamon on there. And now what I'm gonna do, set that aside. I'm gonna grab some of these absolutely beautiful strawberries that we have, because as we know, we've stated, strawberries are in season right now. So and last week I told you all, please don't murder my strawberries, please, I beg you. A lot of people will just lob off the whole top. You're just wasting beautiful fruit. If you just give it a little V cut, this is all that should be coming off of your strawberry. And that way you're left with a beautiful plump strawberry. All right, so I'm just gonna slice these up a little bit. Now I'm slicing them. You could also chop, do a rough chop if you like. That works as well. Totally up to you. Get my little V going here.
And strawberries are a great source of vitamin C. They're the only fruit that has their seeds on the outside, and one medium strawberry can have up to 200 seeds on the outside.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
And like Rebecca said, they are in season. So this is the perfect time. And as Keyshawn went over, things are cheaper when they're in season. So strawberries are in season now. So hopefully you'll get some good deals in the grocery store.
All right, and I also have some blueberries here. You can see that I've got a little mason jar of blueberries here. This is all that's left after my 8-year-old had a blueberry snack today. So I'm just gonna add those here. Now, here comes the pièce de résistance. We've got a lot of fruit going on here. I don't know about you, but I like a little chocolate in my dessert, right? So we're just gonna
Bring it on.
a little bit of chocolate syrup. And I also have some fat-free Ready Whip that you can get. You know, now they make Ready Whip in all kinds of things. They have the dairy-free Ready Whip. They've got the coconut. They've got, you know, everything. Sugar-free, fat-free. This is the fat-free one. And I'm just going to make a few dollops here.
That looks amazing.
And here we have dessert nachos. So now the apples serve as the nachos, right? And we've got our fruit on top, a little bit of chocolate. Everybody needs their chocolate fix. And then we have our whipped cream. So take a look at that.
And that chocolate looks like what my children use to make chocolate milk.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay, so you're not saying go out and buy Ghirardelli and melt it down in a double boiler. It is just regular chocolate syrup that they use for their chocolate milk. Bada bing, bada boom.
Now, I will say this. I am a chef. So if you're going to blend down some Ghirardelli chocolate and everything, I'm real happy about that. However, I'm also a mom and I work full time. So we don't always have time to do all the fancy stuff, right?
Exactly. And I will say, if you wanted to make this in advance, you could take those apple slices and you could put them in fresh pineapple juice, 100% pineapple juice, and that will stop them from turning. It is just the oxidation that is making them turn brown on us if you're going to have it out for a while. So sometimes I would just dunk them. And I had somebody that asked me, well, the apples taste like pineapples? No, they do not taste like pineapples. It just stops the browning process. So just a little tip if you want to make that in advance.
That's correct. Now, the other option I have for dessert nachos is if you have leftover tortillas. Now, we always buy tortillas, whether it's the kit or they're separate, and we make our taco fun and all that. And then there's always these tortillas that are left over, right? We run out of everything else, but the tortillas are left. And so what I've done is sprayed each one with a little bit of the cooking spray. You can use butter. I'm eliminating the butter so I can cut back a little bit, but you can spread just a little bit of butter on these. And I'm sprinkling with a little bit of cinnamon. You can do a blend of cinnamon and sugar. Of course, we're trying to reduce some of the sugar.
Or a sugar substitute.
That's
in
correct.
my house, I would make those with.
That's right. And I'm going to cut each one so that I get little tortilla triangles. Can you all see that?
Perfecto.
And I'm going to actually put these in a 350-degree oven for 8 to 10 minutes. And well, I did that one a little large, but that's okay. And once I get these in the oven, I'm going to check on our chicken. I'm going to check the temperature. Oh, that's a good question. Does anybody know what the internal temperature of poultry should be when you cook it?
Ooh, that is a good question.
That's a
Very good
I always
question.
ask our 4-Hers when they're doing their cooking demos.
Go ahead and put that answer in the Q&A, or if you're on Facebook, the comment section. But we got a question from Nikia. She was wondering how to store fresh strawberries. And so some advice is to remove the strawberries from the original container, and you want to make sure that you get rid of the spoiled berries or berries with mold. You can arrange them in like a single layer and top with a paper towel, and make sure that you store them loosely. But I think one of the keys is to not wash or remove the caps until you are ready to serve. I think a lot of people make that mistake, and then they wonder why their strawberries have molded or they're gone like the day after they get it. But yeah, so that is a quick tip for you, Nikia. Hopefully that answered your question.
And that's
Also,
important as a lot more people are doing meal prepping. It's important to know that stuff. So that's awesome.
and also, if you'd like to freeze those strawberries, there is a step-by-step on the National Center for Home Preservation. There's a website, and it is sponsored by University of Georgia, and they have step-by-step for freezing all types of produce. There are links for blueberries, strawberries, apricots, pears, and some of us are getting into food preservation again, into canning. Last year with strawberries, I was able to make a quick strawberry jam. So it's funny how history repeats itself. My grandmother and great grandmother used to can, and of course I was new and modern and I don't can, but I like canned items. And sometimes if you have it and you want to do something with it, you want to keep them, because I'm not a fan of throwing any kind of money into the trash. So preserving it or making a quick jam is a great way. Of course, if you make sure that you do it safely, and there are instructions on the National Center for Home Preservation as well. Also, if they're about to go bad, for instance, I bought strawberries, and if I'm not, my family is spoiled, you all. If I don't make it convenient and cut the tops off and slice them up and have them in a little bowl where everybody can have access to them, they don't eat them as well. So if they are starting to go bad, guess what? I pop them in a blender with a little low-fat yogurt, and it's smoothie time. So there are a lot of different ways that you can use these and incorporate those, increase those fruits and veggies into our diet.
Yes. So we did have a couple people who answered the pop quiz question. 165 degrees, ding, ding, ding. Now you get a smile from Keyshawn, Chef Rebecca, and myself. No? Okay.
And we do have a question about how do you store the extra cilantro. Great question, Kathy, one of our Zoom friends. And there are several different ways, 2 different ways you can store the extra cilantro. Generally, and I wish I had some, this one time you asked the question when I don't have some. But generally, if you have the stalk, I usually dap in a paper towel and I'll wrap it around the bottom. and I'll just stick it into a bowl or a tall mason jar, and that helps to preserve it. It needs to be damp because it is a fresh herb, and that's if I'm going to use it and kind of pick off of it within the next day or so. If I'm not going to use it, because I am kind of like a cheapskate, if I'm not going to use it within the next day or so, I will put it in an ice tray in a little bit of olive oil, and I'll freeze it. And all you have to do is pop it out of the ice tray as you need it. So it's kind of like a cilantro cube, if you will. So that's one way to kind of prolong the life of cilantro. Great question.
Yes. So I think Chef Rebecca is shredding the chicken.
Yes, I am shredding the chicken. So I was just about to tell you that.
Okay.
And we did reach temperature, so we're good. So I'm going to go on with this if you want to go on to our bonus today.
So our bonus today is we couldn't just leave you guys hanging without helping you guys, well, not helping, but, you know, giving you guys a recipe for a drink. It's not like a drink, but it is a good drink that will help you to maintain your weight, stay hydrated, and just continue to live your best life. So we wanted to show you guys how to make a quick, simple recipe of infused water. So today we're making strawberry lemon infused water. So I have strawberries that I sliced up. I also have some lemons that I sliced up. I used Chef Rebecca's tip in not murdering the strawberries. I just did the V. So I have a plethora of strawberries. And then I have my container of water right here. So I'm just gonna add all of these things in. This infused water, of course, is going to be great because you have two, as I splash on myself, two fruits that provide a lot of different antioxidants as well as soluble fiber, which is good for your gut health as well as your digestive system. And then also, as Keyshawn mentioned earlier, you have the vitamin C in the strawberries as well as the lemons. And it also helps to flush out some toxins. So we're just going to put a couple of slices of lemon in here. My idea was to have you all some strawberry basil lemon water. However, all these stores are out of basil and mint. That was the next option. So we're just having some strawberry lemon water. So a great thing to do would probably to let it so the fruits or the juices can kind of get into the water. You could set it out for 24 hours or store it for 24 hours before you start drinking it. Keyshawn has said she hasn't had to do that. So it's kind of, I guess, a personal preference if you want to wait. I've heard also that the lemons, leaving the lemons in there may be too much, make it really tart. So it's all personal preference, which is hopefully what we're sharing with you guys, that you can change these recipes, whether they're drink recipes to meal recipes, to fit your preference and your needs at your house. So this is what the finished product would look like. It would be so pretty with the basil, but next time, I got you. And
Yummers. That looks so good.
I'm gonna pour me some water.
And don't be afraid to be creative, as DeAndrea said. Sometimes I will have a mixed berry blend. It's frozen. And I'm like, I need to go ahead and use these before they turn into UFOs. So I will make infused water with the mixed berry blend. And as DeAndrea said, if you leave it, I noticed the next day the color is so vibrant because the water will take on the color of the mixed fruit. So whatever fruits you like, obviously if it's mostly water, like watermelon may not be a good fruit, but whatever fruit you like, you can drop it in there and drop basil. You can do mint. Those are very popular. I actually like cucumber and lemon water. Yes. That's a good combination. So there are tons of recipes out there. Be creative. And a lot of times I just go with what my family likes. If they like X, Y, and Z ingredients, then a lot of our meals and drinks are based around those ingredients because I know that is what they like.
And it changes, it changes the water up. So you don't get we're supposed to drink, what, 8-ounce glasses of water a day. So 64 ounces a day. It's a lot of water for some people, not for Zoe though, but for some people. And so sometimes they need to, you want to change it up a little bit and add some flavor to it. So this is a great alternative to doing like the Crystal Light or the other types of additives that they have in the grocery store.
Okay, we have a question. What is the chef doing?
Aha. So what I've done here is I started to build our burrito bowl because I noticed what time it was and I want to make sure everybody can see. So what I have here is some romaine lettuce that I just did a rough chop with my lettuce knife. I have some corn. You can thaw out frozen corn or use the can, but we recommend that you rinse the corn very well. And I have some black beans on here. So that's what I've laid down. I'm gonna add some chicken so that you can see how this beautiful chicken came out. Now the people in my house love Wednesday nights now.
Yay! I would too if I was eating that.
I know, right?
But they also have to help clean up, so I don't know how great it is.
That looks amazing.
It does.
I am gonna get it closer so that you all can see it. So
Yum.
we have our homemade burrito bowl. Now you can do some cilantro lime rice. Some cilantro lime brown rice would be perfect with this. You can do some quinoa. You can do anything you want to add to something to this. But sometimes it's good to just have just the burrito bowl, the salad. So that's
now, what if I was to add that lazy day salsa to that? Because I'm a salsa girl as well.
Oh yes, we can do that. I'm actually chopping a little bit of cilantro to put on top too.
Oh, a girl after my own heart. Yes. All right. And that nice red onion is going to give a different flavor profile than a yellow or a white onion would.
That's correct. And I'm going to show you our dressing as well. So let me just get a little bit of our Lazy Day salsa on here. I will get it close to the camera again. Just give me a second. The Lazy Day salsa. And remember our dressing that we made in the mason jar. Take that off. Ooh, wish you could smell it. Pour that on a little bit on the lettuce and a little bit on the chicken. And there we have it.
That looks amazing.
Yes, and so let me do one last thing. I'm gonna get these nacho chips out of the oven here. All right, now with these nacho chips, normally I use whole wheat, but of course they didn't have any whole wheat at the store. So for demonstration purposes, I just got the little tiny street tacos. So as you can see, there we have, all I did was bake them at 350 degrees for about 10 minutes. And now we've got that. We can add our strawberries, we can add some blueberries.
So Rebecca, by baking them, we did not have to immerse them into frying. We didn't have to put them in oil. So that made them a little healthier, correct?
Correct. We eliminated a lot of those things that cause us to add too much of good things. All right.
That looks amazing.
There we have it. And I'm actually going to pass it off to my daughter and let her taste it.
So the texture of those nachos, after about 10 minutes at 350, they are pretty, they're not soft any longer, correct?
They're soft on the inside, but they have a really good crust on the outside.
Yeah.
I just got the thumbs up from Leah, so I guess they're really good. You can sprinkle some cinnamon on top as well. If you're a cinnamon person like I am, you know, we have it on the actual nachos. You can sprinkle a little bit more on top to give it a little bit more cinnamon flavor. And again, you can change that up to do different fruits. You can use raspberries. You can use blackberries. You can use peaches. Honestly, you can use anything.
So what if I had like froyo? Because it's a pantry pool, so I have vanilla frozen yogurt almost always, and I'm thinking the vanilla frozen yogurt. I just gotta chill. Vanilla frozen yogurt on the warm nachos. Yes.
Ooh, yes. Love
Sounds
it.
yummy. Yeah.
Yeah, that would work perfectly.
So someone said you should have your restaurant.
Oh, that's very kind.
Miss Christine Rushing said that.
And I'd definitely be a patron every day. What are we having in here? Because it looks wonderful.
So I'm just going to show you how much chicken you actually get from this recipe. Let me pull the camera down because I know some of us have more than just a few people in our household. So that's how much chicken is left after I put some on the plate. So you get a good bit for this recipe. And again, you don't have to even do burrito bowls. You can do, like I have those little street taco tortillas. You can make little tacos, little street tacos. You can use that marinade on shrimp, fish, anything really. You can do straight veggies and add onions and mushrooms and even broccoli or whatever you want to add to it, and do just the vegetable, the marinade on just the vegetable. So totally up to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chef Rebecca. That was amazing. I'm so hungry. Kishana, are you hungry?
I am starving. I made the fatal mistake of not eating dinner before we started.
Me too. I'm sure all of our participants are hungry also. So I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us this evening. It has been a fun evening. I hope you all enjoyed our pantry roundup, hopefully using some of the things that you found having your own pantry. Do you, Keyshawn or Chef Rebecca, have any last thoughts?
I would like to make sure, that if you would like, we have tons of resources about freezing, canning. We have the recipe cards. Please share your email with us and we'll get an email out to you. We also have an evaluation and we will send an evaluation link in that email. We always are trying to improve and see what we can do better or see what you guys are interested in. So that evaluation link would be an opportunity for you to give us valuable feedback.
Yes.
I would also like to say, join us next week, every Wednesday in May.
Yes. So for those who are on Facebook Live, if you do not feel comfortable leaving your email address for the world to see, you could just in the comment section, just put more, and either I, Keyshawn, or Chef Rebecca will reach out to you to get your email address so we can send you those resources, the recipes, as well as the evaluation link so you could tell us how we're doing. Chef Rebecca, do you have any last thoughts?
Well, I just want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. We had a great time last week, a great time this week. So hopefully people are looking forward to next week, and we'll bring even more recipes and more great information for you all. Our whole point is to make sure that you can safely feed your family and do it on a budget.
Yes. So next week, we will be here, same place, same time, 6:30. Next week's topic is Mom's Diner Comfort Food. So all the classic comfort food that your mom makes on a regular basis. Well, maybe not on a regular basis, but you know, that good old food, that good old country cooking.
I was gonna say, it's been a while.
Right, it's been a minute. Right. So, but come back and hang out with us next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. And we please give us your email addresses so we can send you those resources and that evaluation link. Again, for those who are on Facebook, send your, just type in the subject more if you don't feel comfortable adding your email address. All right. So
thank you guys.
We'll see you all next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. for Mom's Diner Comfort Food. See you guys later.
Bye.
All right, bon appetit.
Bon appetit.